The City Council, a special meeting, will please come to order. If you would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For a special meeting of the City Council, the regular rules and procedures pertaining to the agenda do not apply. Therefore, we handle only those provisions for which this meeting is called. However, Councilman Harmon has requested to make a comment.
Well, thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate that. When I went out to get the paper Wednesday morning, I was absolutely mortified, and that's not too strong of a word, to see that my early exit at last Tuesday's meeting had contributed to a legislative logjam necessitating the calling of a special meeting for this evening. I want to offer my deepest and most profound regret to each one of you, council members Schmidt, Schwartz, Manspeaker, De La Isa, Everhart, Ortiz, Brown, Hiller, Mayor Wolgast, City Manager Colson, County Commissioners Bueller, Archer, and Cook, the news media, and the general public. I feel awful about it. I feel horrible, and I'm very sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. This special meeting was called to pertain to the countywide retail sales tax ballot question. And this is there was a resolution that was not adopted last week. And council members, I think you received a memorandum from the city attorney describing the action for us. To take up that resolution, we will have to have a vote to suspend the council rules, which prevent us from handling any issue for 6 months once it has been handled. So therefore, we would accept a motion by a council member to reconsider this resolution.
I think the motion would be to suspend Council Rule 6.1
correct.
and 6.2G.
Yeah, we will suspend the rules 6.1 and 6.2G to reconsider this resolution. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would be willing to make the motion to suspend the rules so that we may reconsider those items.
And Councilwoman De La Isla seconds. Is there discussion? If not, all those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no, and this does require a 2/3 vote. It would be 6 votes.
We have 9 yes.
9 having voted yes, we will now reconsider that resolution. So in order to place it before us, it would be appropriate to have a motion to again pass that resolution that you received a copy of with the agenda.
Mayor, if I may, it's actually a 2-step process. The first is a motion to reconsider, and then the second will be a motion to reconsider the substance of the resolution.
All right, we will entertain a motion to reconsider. Mrs. Ortiz moves that, and Mr. Brown seconds. Is there discussion? All those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no. I'm sorry, Mr. Manspeaker.
Does the motion to reconsider have to be from the prevailing side?
No, it doesn't. You suspended Rule 6.1, which is Robert's Rules, which mandates that only from the prevailing side.
All right, thank you.
Are there other questions? If not, all those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no. This requires 5 votes.
We have 9 yes.
9 having voted yes, we have reconsidered the motion. And now it would be appropriate to have a motion to approve the resolution that was before us last week. Ms. Schwartz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make that motion to approve the resolution.
All right. Ms. Schwartz moves to approve the resolution. Mr. Schmidt seconds. We now have the resolution before us that you received a copy of, which is our business for this evening, and so that would now be open for discussion or any action. Is there discussion? Mrs. Hiller?
It looks like this is what the joint bodies want to do at this point, and I can support it. I would like, and I'm not suggesting in addition to the resolution, I'd like to say for the county folks present and for all of us, I personally would like to see the interlocal agreement and there has been discussion, as I understand it, of accommodating the fact that the trails are not in this package by putting them in a joint resolution that would allocate the money that will be left over from the 2004 sales tax. I would like to see both of those considered before September 1, just because I think that it's important to the voters. So those are comments.
Mm-hmm. Right. And actually, for the members particularly who are watching, just about 4 sentences of background. This is a countywide extension of the sales tax. The county is the body that places it on the ballot. The county asks the city to respond, to provide their input on it. We've received resolutions from them that has been discussed. We've sent one back, they sent one back, and now we are looking at this again. So this is our resolution by which we are conveying our views to the county on what should be on the countywide sales tax. And then Mrs. Hiller spoke of the interlocal agreement, which is the legal document that really specifies how the funding will be handled between the city and the county once the revenue is coming in. So there's really 2 different steps. Tonight, the only item on the agenda is will be go on the countywide sales tax. Mr. Manspeaker?
In the resolution that's before us, sidewalks are not on there. Would you like to speak to that?
Are you asking?
Mr. City Manager.
Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Manspeaker. In the reference that Councilmember Hiller made to a separate interlocal agreement between the county and the city, we have discussed using the surplus funds from the existing sales tax that expires on December 31st of 2016 to use those funds for a combination of trails and for sidewalks, and that will be taken up as we go forward.
Mrs. Ortiz.
Mrs. Sylvia, that's all right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sylvia Ortiz.
Because there's been so much back and forth, I just want to make sure, can the city attorney read what is on the resolution? Because, I mean,
Okay.
the public doesn't have that.
Okay, you mean the sort of what this sets out to do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And just for clarification, the projects that are on the resolution, is that?
You got it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Item number 1 is economic development. 2 is Southwest 6th Avenue, Gage Boulevard to Fairlawn Road. 3 is Southwest 17th Street, Adams to Washburn. 4 is Southwest 17th Street, McVicker to Kansas, Interstate 470. 5 is Topeka Boulevard, 15th Street to 21st Street. 6 is Southeast California, 37th Street to 45th Street. 7th is Northeast Seward, Sumner to Forest. 8 is Southwest Huntoon Street, Gage Boulevard to Harrison Street. 9 is Southwest 12th Street, Gage Boulevard to Kansas Avenue. 10 is Northwest Rochester Road, US Highway 24 to Northwest 50th Street. 11, Northwest 46th Street, Bunton Road North to Rochester Road. 12, County Bridges. 13, Topeka Zoological Park. 14, Kansas Expo Center. 15, Southwest 29th Street, Fairlawn to Wanamaker. 16, Southwest 37th Street, Scaper Place to Burlingame. 17, Southeast 37th Street, Kansas to Adams. 18, Bikeways Master Plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And did I see, if I could may,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, was, Topeka Boulevard on there?
Yes, that's it's line 34, item number 5, Topeka Boulevard, 15th Street to 21st Street.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And then also, I was told that, they didn't think it was illegal if we took the Eco Devo question and made that separate. Is that correct?
If there was, yes, there could be a separate ballot question.
There could be a separate ballot question.
Yes.
And it was also said that, hey, let's put them all on a separate question ballot and throw it out there for the people. I've heard from a lot of constituents, 75 million for economic development, 5 million a year. I think it's very important to let the people speak and let them say what they want and see how important that is. And therefore, I will not be supporting this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there other questions or comments? Councilwoman Schwartz.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think I need to have an explanation of vote since I was on the dissenting side last time. I have thought about this and talked to many people, and I think we have let our infrastructure go so long that we have so many items on this suggestion of what we use this tax for. There's 18, and I don't know how many were on the previous county vote for the people to decide if they want to pay this tax. But I know it was nowhere near 18 items that were on it. So I will be supporting this because I do believe in economic development, and I do believe that we need to better our infrastructure in Topeka.
Thank you. Other comments? Mr. Harmon?
When this matter, and by this matter, I'm talking about the half-cent countywide sales tax, was crafted and put before the voters, I believe, in 2003, perhaps. It was done for two primary purposes. One was to provide a stable funding source for economic development. And then the second item was to provide funding for some infrastructure projects, not only in Topeka, but outside the city limits. The economic development piece of this has been, and I think most would agree, has been very, very successful. We can point to many projects and companies that have come to Topeka because of the use of those economic development dollars. And I think we can all take pride in that. With the infrastructure piece, we were able to pay for the Topeka Boulevard Bridge, which had to be done. And we were able to focus on some infrastructure needs, not only in the city of Topeka, but in areas of the county outside of the city limits. The impetus for renewing it, or for going back to the voters and asking them to extend the sales tax, really, the most important point for me is the economic development dollar piece. That is critical if we're going to continue to grow as a community, that we have a stable funding source so we can continue to develop incentives to bring businesses to Topeka. Having said that, I think that the Chamber, Go Topeka and JADO need to be willing to consider whether the current economic development model is still valid, or whether that should be modified, and I hope that they will be willing to undergo that work. It has been suggested, not only by Councilwoman Ortiz, but others, that, why can't we have a separate ballot question just limited to economic development? Correct me if I'm wrong, City Attorney, but state law limits the increments of sales tax that we can ask the voters to approve. We're limited to either a 1/4 cent or a 1/2 cent. Is that correct? Well, no one is suggesting a 1/4 cent sales tax for economic development. That's too much money. But what it does provide or what this discussion has led me to conclude, is that we need to go to the legislature, perhaps with the league in terms of developing legislative priorities, and ask the league for cities of the first class to have permission to do a 1/8 cent sales tax. If we had that this year, it would have provided a great more flexibility in allowing us to craft a ballot question that could have been much more specific. As it is, we're hampered and limited into trying to develop what we can for a quarter cent or for a half cent. What my concern is that throughout this process, I think we focused too much on what projects we can squeeze into the ballot question, and not enough focus on what's likely to pass the voters. If this ballot question fails, then we have imperiled our economic development investment dollars. And I don't think that we've done a good enough job in sitting down and thinking about what's going to pass at the ballot box. Personally, I think this is going to fail. I think it's going to fail the voters. And let me explain why. This tax is not scheduled to expire for over 2 years, December 2016. Most constituents and families and businesses are trying to figure out how to get through 2014. No reason has been presented to me as to why we have to put this to a vote of the people more than 2 years before the current tax is due to expire. There may be a good reason out there, but it has not been shared with me. And asking the voters to approve a tax this far in advance has raised some suspicions in the eyes of the public, and perhaps with some justification. We can always hold a special election down the road. We can do a mail-in ballot question. We can tie it to an April election, or we could even wait till 2016 before putting this on the ballot. The polls that I've seen, there seems to be support for a ballot question, pardon me, that is limited economic development and infrastructure. When you start loading other items onto the ballot, such as the zoo, such as the expo center, such as bikeways, such as trails, public support falls off. I think the lesson there is that we need to focus just on economic development and infrastructure and figure out different funding sources for those other projects, although they are worthwhile and important to many people. Final thing I want to comment on is we've been talking about a $45 million expo center project in the sales tax. Personally, I feel that sales tax is not the proper funding source for improvements to our civic center. Sales tax is a very precious commodity. It's extremely regressive, and I don't think it is the proper funding source. There are other funding sources for capital improvements, such as bonding or perhaps even a TIF district. And this project is not just deferred maintenance, it is a renovation and expansion project, and it ties our civic center to the fairgrounds for the next 20 to 25 years. And it forecloses the possibility that we should be examining the possibility of moving our civic center closer to the downtown, where it could become an economic generator that other communities are witnessing by moving their arenas closer to downtown, such as the Sprint Center in Kansas City and the Power and Light District, which has resulted in Trust Bank Arena in Wichita and the arena in Omaha. I think we have, I think the Expo Center has served us well. It replaced the municipal auditorium that it was housed in this building for many years. It's an aged structure, and I just don't think putting $45 million into it at this time is the best use of precious sales tax dollars. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Are there other comments, references, questions? Mrs. Hiller?
I do think Councilman Harmon brings up some good points. One of the reasons I really want us to work on the interlocal agreement soon. The feedback I've gotten is that people are comfortable with the mix, but they really want the streets done first. And I had been hopeful that we could have in the interlocal agreement an agreement that the streets would be done first and that the big projects would come later. The sense that I've gotten is that people weren't ready to do that, but I do hope we have the conversation, and I think out of respect for the voters, we need to decide that so that everybody knows what the deal is, whether the city and county are running parallel with kind of their own money and their own projects through this entire projected 15 years, or whether we can, for instance, get the streets and some small projects done first and the bigger projects done later. Because there really was strong support for that 7 to 10 year cap, and I think that matches those infrastructure projects in terms of the dollars, as well as the urgency, particularly on the city side, to get them done. I also am hoping, as Councilman Harmon said, that we do indicate that we have heard what the public is saying in terms of their support for economic development, but their desire to see us do some more planning and some more accountability and be open to changing the mix of exactly how it's done. And I think we can easily do that with language in the interlocal that just expands and clarifies the role of JADO, so that it's clear to the public that if they vote to support the economic development part, that we have heard them in terms of keeping an eye on it and really looking at setting measurable goals and watching that. So just to follow up on some of that. Thank you.
Comments? I would like just briefly to say a couple comments in relationship somewhat to Councilman Harmon, but then in from the overall picture. And as Councilwoman Hiller said, and as for Councilman Harmon, I think there are excellent points, certainly things to consider. We have been working with us, actually the county initiated it, as is their responsibility, sent some things to us. The first resolution, this body held hearings in the community to get the input of citizens. And I think throughout this process, there's been an excellent working relationship between the county and the city, listening to one another. Certainly we have different views and priorities, but yet I think this list probably has been looked at, examined, and discussed more than most issues before us. I understand the question of whether we have an election now or later. There's been quite a bit of discussion about the need for wanting to do it earlier rather than later, so that the decision can be made and plans can be made far in advance, and whether that's the legitimate or best reason or not, it's hard to say. And I think then we have things in here such as the expo and the zoo and different issues, and they are difficult. It's always when we're making these decisions that really last 10 years, it's very challenging to decide, okay, we're stepping out into this, we're making this decision, making a commitment, and we're hopeful that it is the correct decision. I think this has been before us. I believe this is about the fourth or fifth time that we've had a meeting discussion on it. And I think we need to respond, take a vote, and in my view, I think this should go back to we approve it, goes back to the county. They look at it, draw it up in some measure with our recommendations, our suggestions in this resolution. And if it's reasonably close, then be prepared, ready to go to the voters. And then following that up with the interlocal agreement, where it will be then actually the legal process of determining how the different issues, the timing, as Councilwoman Hiller has said, and how the issues are paid for in that process. So I think it's time. We take the step, we enter into it, and we move forward. Is there other comments? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on the resolution. All those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no.
We have 6 yes and 3 no.
6 having voted yes, the resolution is adopted. That is the item on the agenda for this evening. Let's see, there is no other business before the council. The meeting is adjourned.